Welcome back. We're going to take up our final topic in this set of videos looking at structural and organizational topics with regard to the church. And our last topic in this set of videos is that of deacons. This is another role that within the church that is very explicitly defined and mentioned in the Bible, and so we need to take a look at that. After the traits and characteristics in 1 Timothy chapter 3 about elders, immediately following that are some traits and characteristics for those who will be designated as deacons. And so let's look at that passage. That's 1 Timothy chapter 3 verses 8 through 13. Let's read that. Deacons likewise must be men of dignity, not double-tongued or addicted to much wine or fond of sordid gain, but holding to the mystery of the faith with a clear conscience. These men must also first be tested. Then let them serve as deacons if they are beyond reproach. Women must likewise be dignified, not malicious gossips, but temperate, faithful in all things. Deacons must be husbands of only one wife and good managers of their children and their own households. For those who have served well as deacons obtain for themselves a high standing and a great confidence in the faith that is in Christ Jesus. So we see there a list of traits and characteristics that would make for someone being able to be a deacon within the Lord's church. That list has a lot of similarities to the list we saw for elders in the verses just prior to that. But there is a difference I'd like to point out. The list for elders says that they should be able to teach, and as we talked about in those videos, that means they should be very capable at teaching. And so it would seem that the elders are in the position of sitting down and having that conversation, that discourse with members of the church to give them instruction and guidance on their Christian walk, and perhaps more in line with someone as an elder than as a deacon. But I also want to notice something about this list for deacons. It says that they must hold to the mystery of the faith with a clear conscience. And we say, well, why would that be listed there? If we look at the Greek word from which deacon comes from, it's diakonos, which means to be a servant or to wait on or to serve others. So those within the church who are held up or clearly designated and recognized as deacons must be a role model of what a Christian servant would be, and we would not want a role model in the church that didn't hold to the mystery of the faith with a clear conscience. That would be fundamental for someone who's going to serve in a way that would show others how they could serve and be strong in their faith. So this is not just some earthly task to get things done. This role, just like elders, has a spiritual focus to it and an example for the church. You know, some of the research that I've done and looking at the role, the function, the job duties, if you will, of deacons within churches shows that across different churches there's a pretty wide variety of duties and tasks that they undertake. In my research, I saw that some are very focused on what I'll describe as spiritual matters, things like caring for the widowed or looking after the bereaved or following up with the backsliders who've not been attending or participating in the church as much. And so very much following up and caring for people role. Other churches, and maybe sometimes within the same churches, have deacons who are more focused on some of the earthly, physical, logistical matters, making sure that the building is taken care of and secured and locked up, and doing things like making sure that there are supplies for the different events and activities that the church is going to have, and things of that nature, of a more physical nature. Regardless of what kinds of duties they perform, I think we see from these traits, these characteristics listed in 1 Timothy chapter 3, that's clear that they need to be well suited to serve as a role model of Christian service, and thus, even if it's some physical, earthly thing that they may be doing, they need to do that with a spirit of faith and service to their fellow Christians and serve, therefore, as a role model. It's clear that we should say that all of us as Christians should reveal God to the world, and in some ways, therefore, we are all role models, but certainly those who are held up and designated as deacons, as servants within the church, clearly need to be a very good role model for all the rest of us. And so there is importance to how and who we select for those roles. As we've looked at these structural and organizational topics, we've looked at 4 topics now. We've looked at church buildings, local paid preachers, elders, and deacons. When we come back in our next video, I want to share some overview, some concluding comments about these topics, and give you some things to think about with regard to those topics, and then also give you a bit of a preview on some things that we're going to need to look at as we go on and keep going forward in our study. So please pray that God will continue to open our hearts and let us hear what His Word has to say. I hope to see you in the next video.